The guest quarters provided by the Veil-3 were more luxurious than anything Marcus had experienced, but sleep eluded him completely. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the Oracle's face, felt the weight of that unseeing gaze that somehow saw everything. The humming sound from her chamber seemed to follow him, echoing in his mind long after they had left the sanctum's heart. Sarah was already awake when he emerged from his room at what passed for dawn on this world. She sat at the crystalline table that had somehow grown from the floor overnight, a steaming cup of something that smelled like cinnamon and starlight in her hands. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked without looking up. "That humming," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her. "Did you hear it too?" "Hard to miss. But Marcus, I'm concerned about the way you were looking at her yesterday. The Veil-3 are clearly terrified of what might happen if those bandages are disturbed." Marcus accepted a cup from the wall dispenser, watching the liquid swirl with colors that had no names in any human language. "Sarah, what if they're wrong? What if the bandages aren't protection for us but a prison for her? That's a hell of an assumption to make about a civilization that survived longer than human recorded history." Before Marcus could respond, Keeper Zalthine appeared in their doorway. The Veil-3's ability to move silently still unnerved Marcus, but he was beginning to appreciate their guardian's dedication to their charges. "Dr. Chen," Zalthine said, his musical voice carrying an urgency that hadn't been there yesterday, "you must come. Something has changed." They followed the Keeper through corridors that seemed different in the morning light. The walls pulsed faster now, and other Veil-3 they passed moved with quick, nervous steps. Whispered conversations in their flowing language created an undercurrent of anxiety that was palpable. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded as they hurried toward the central chamber. "She spoke," Zalthine replied without slowing. "For the first time in 2 centuries, the Oracle spoke, and she spoke in your language." Marcus felt his heart skip. "What did she say?" "She said your name." The central chamber was no longer the place of peaceful contemplation they had visited yesterday. Dozens of Veil-3 filled the space, some prostrating themselves before the Oracle's platform, others engaged in heated discussions with their fellows. The air itself seemed charged with electricity, making the hair on Marcus's arms stand up. But it was the Oracle herself that made Marcus stop in his tracks. She was no longer sitting in perfect stillness. Her head was raised, turned toward the chamber's entrance as if she had been waiting for them. The silver veins beneath her luminous skin pulsed faster now, creating patterns of light that seemed almost like a written language. "Marcus Chen," she said, and her voice was like music given form, like the sound of distant galaxies singing to each other across the void. "I have been waiting." The chamber fell silent. Even the Veil-3 who had been arguing moments before turned to stare at the 3 humans who had somehow become the focus of their most sacred being's attention. Marcus found himself walking forward, despite every rational part of his mind screaming at him to stay back. "You know who I am. I know who you were, who you are, and who you might become." The Oracle's covered eyes seemed to track his movement with impossible precision. "I know that your species carries within it the spark that others have forgotten. The willingness to reach beyond the boundaries of fear." "The bandages," Marcus said, his scientific curiosity overriding his caution. "Why do you wear them?" A ripple of distress passed through the assembled Veil-3. Keeper Zalthine made a sound, like a wounded bird, but the Oracle raised one luminous hand and silence returned. "They were placed upon me long ago when the universe was younger and the consequences of sight less. Controlled. I see through them, but dimly, like viewing the cosmos through frosted glass." "Who placed them?" Sarah asked, moving to stand beside Marcus despite the obvious danger of the situation. "Those who came before. Those who feared what would happen if the barriers between dimensions grew too thin. They were not wrong to fear, but neither were they entirely right." Marcus felt drawn forward another step. The platform was only a few meters away now, close enough that he could see the intricate details of the crystalline bandages, the way they seemed to flow and shift like living water. "What would happen if they were removed?" he asked. The Oracle smiled, and the expression was both beautiful and terrifying. I would see clearly for the first time in centuries, and in seeing clearly, I would understand the true shape of the universe, the connections between all things, the patterns that govern the rise and fall of civilizations, the paths that lead to transcendence or destruction. That sounds dangerous, Sarah said carefully. All growth is dangerous, Commander Walsh. But so is stagnation. Your species understands this better than most. You have never been content to remain in one place, to accept the boundaries others have drawn for you. Keeper Zalthine stepped forward, his entire body trembling. Oracle, please. The ancients warned us. If the bandages are removed before the proper time, if the cosmic alignments are not correct. The cosmic alignments, the Oracle said gently, are never correct for those who wait for permission to grow. But they are always correct for those who choose to take the next step despite the risks. Marcus felt something shift in the air around them, a sense of potential energy building like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. The Oracle was looking at him now with an intensity that made his knees weak. You are here because your species has reached a crossroads, she continued. Humanity stands on the threshold between remaining a single-world curiosity and becoming something truly galactic. But that transformation requires vision. It requires seeing the universe as it truly is, not as others have taught you to see it. And you can provide that vision? Marcus asked. I can provide the tools for understanding. But first, someone must be willing to look. Someone must have the courage to remove these barriers and accept the consequences, whatever they might be. The chamber erupted in agitated voices as the Valkyrie began to understand what the Oracle was suggesting. Zalthine fell to his knees, pleading in his musical language for her to reconsider. But Marcus found himself stepping onto the platform itself, driven by a curiosity that was stronger than fear, a need to understand that was more powerful than the warnings of ancient civilizations. Marcus, don't, Sarah called out, but her voice seemed to come from very far away. The Oracle extended her hands toward him, palms up, in a gesture that was both invitation and challenge. The choice is yours, Dr. Marcus Chen. Will you be the one who dares to see what others fear to witness? Will you help a god remember what it means to truly see? Marcus looked at those outstretched hands, at the face that held such terrible beauty beneath its crystalline covering. Every rational part of his mind told him to step back, to leave this place and never return. Instead, he reached out and placed his hands in hers. The moment their skin touched, the universe exploded into light. The touch sent shockwaves through Marcus's consciousness that felt like diving into a star. Images flooded his mind faster than thought itself could process them. He saw the birth of galaxies, the death of suns, civilizations rising from primordial oceans only to collapse into cosmic dust. But beneath it all was a presence, ancient and vast, that had been watching, waiting, learning. When the visions finally stopped, Marcus found himself still standing on the platform, his hands still touching the oracles. But everything had changed. The air around them shimmered with visible energy, and he could see streams of light connecting every living being in the chamber. The Valkyrie appeared to him now not just as alien beings, but as complex networks of energy and consciousness, their fears and hopes blazing like small suns in his enhanced perception. You see, the Oracle said, and her voice now carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in dimensions his human ears shouldn't have been able to detect. This is what I have glimpsed through the barriers for 2 centuries. The true nature of existence, the connections that bind all conscious life across the cosmos. Marcus tried to speak but found his voice had temporarily abandoned him. The intensity of what he was experiencing should have driven him mad, but instead he felt a strange clarity settling over his thoughts. His scientific training, his years of studying alien life forms had somehow prepared him for this moment of revelation. The bandages, he managed to whisper. They're not just blocking your sight. They're limiting your connection to everything. Yes. The ancients feared that unrestricted awareness might lead to interference with the natural development of younger species. They were not wrong to be cautious, but they could not foresee a time when such guidance might become necessary for survival. Around them, the Valkyrie had fallen silent, watching the exchange with a mixture of terror and fascination. Sarah stood at the edge of the platform, her hand hovering near her sidearm, though Marcus doubted any weapon could affect what was happening here. What survival? Sarah called out. What threat requires this kind of power? The Oracle turned her bandaged face toward the commander, and even through the crystalline covering, Marcus could feel the weight of that attention. Commander Walsh, your species has spread across the galaxy faster than any before you. In less than 3 centuries, humans have established colonies on 47 worlds. Do you think such expansion has gone unnoticed? A chill ran down Marcus's spine that had nothing to do with the energy field swirling around them. You're talking about something coming for us, and no coming. Already here. Already watching. The Consortium of Eternal Night has observed humanity's growth with growing concern. They are the shepherds of galactic civilization, the ones who determine which species are allowed to transcend their planetary origins and which are redirected. Keeper Zalthine made a sound like crystal breaking. The Consortium is legend, Oracle. Stories told to frighten children. The Vel 3 were once scheduled for redirection. The Oracle continued as if the Keeper hadn't spoken. Your people's expansion had grown too rapid, your population too large. The Consortium's agents were already moving to introduce the plague that would have reduced your numbers to manageable levels. Only my intervention prevented your extinction. The revelation hit the assembled Veil 3 like a physical blow. Marcus could see the shock rippling through their energy patterns, the sudden understanding that their salvation had come at a price none of them had realized. And now they're planning the same thing for humanity, Marcus said. It wasn't a question. Worse, humanity's expansion rate has exceeded all previous records. Your species' adaptability, your refusal to accept limitations marks you as an existential threat to the Consortium's vision of ordered development. They will not simply reduce your numbers. They will ensure humanity never leaves its birth system again. Sarah stepped onto the platform, her military training overriding her fear. How long do we have? The first phase has already begun. Subtle manipulations of human politics, the introduction of social and economic pressures designed to turn your colonies against each other. Within a decade, humanity will be too busy fighting itself to notice the Consortium's final solution. Marcus felt the weight of revelation settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. But you can help us. That's why you're telling us this. I can see the patterns, yes. I can identify the Consortium's agents, predict their strategies, understand their weaknesses. But only if these barriers are removed. Only if I am allowed to see clearly. No, Zalthine cried out, rising to his feet. Oracle, the risks are too great. If your full power is unleashed, if the dimensional barriers are weakened, creatures from the void spaces might find their way into our reality. The Oracle's expression grew sad, patient. Dear Zalthine, do you think the barriers have remained stable all this time by accident? Do you believe the void creatures have simply chosen to ignore our dimension for 2 centuries? The Keeper's face went pale as understanding dawned. You've been holding them back. Even with the bandages, even with your sight limited, you've been protecting us. Yes, and I have grown weary. The strain of maintaining the barriers while seeing through these limitations has pushed me to my limits. Soon I will no longer be able to hold both positions. Either the bandages are removed and I regain full power to defend this reality, or they remain, and the barriers eventually fail entirely. The choice was no choice at all, Marcus realized. Either risk the consequences of unleashing a god's full power, or guarantee the eventual destruction of everything they were trying to protect. There's more, the Oracle said, her luminous hand tightening slightly around his. The Consortium has been searching for me for decades. They know that something has been interfering with their long-term plans, and they have begun to suspect that the source is here, in this sanctum. Their agents are already en route. How long? Sarah asked. Days. Perhaps a week if the cosmic winds are favorable. Marcus looked around at the assembled Veil 3, at Sarah's grim expression, at the ancient being whose fate seemed to be intertwined with the survival of multiple species. The weight of decision pressed down on him like the gravity of a collapsing star. The bandages, he said quietly. How are they removed? The Oracle smiled, and this time there was something almost proud in her expression. They respond only to direct contact with a conscious being who chooses to see despite the risks. Someone who values truth more than safety, understanding more than comfort. Marcus, Sarah said urgently, think about what you're doing. If she's wrong, if releasing her full power destabilizes reality itself, then we're already doomed, Marcus replied, his hands moving to the crystalline bandages. If we do nothing, The consortium destroys humanity and the void creatures eventually break through anyway. At least this way we have a chance. The bandages felt warm beneath his fingers and he could sense the vast energies they contained. The material seemed to recognize his touch, beginning to pulse with increasing intensity. "Are you ready?" the oracle asked. Marcus looked into her covered face and nodded. "Show me what a god sees when she truly opens her eyes." The crystalline material of the bandages began to dissolve under Marcus's touch, flowing away like liquid starlight. As each layer fell away, the energy in the chamber intensified exponentially. The Veil Three prostrated themselves on the floor, their musical voices raised in what might have been prayers or warnings. When the last of the bandages crumbled to shining dust, the oracle opened her eyes. Marcus had expected something dramatic, perhaps the blazing light of newborn stars or the swirling darkness of black holes. Instead, her eyes were simply the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. They held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies, colors that shifted through spectrums human vision couldn't normally perceive. But more than their appearance, it was the intelligence behind them that took his breath away. This was awareness on a cosmic scale, consciousness that spanned dimensions. "Thank you," she said, and her voice now carried harmonics that made the chamber itself resonate like a vast musical instrument. "I had forgotten what it was like to see without barriers." The oracle rose to her feet with fluid grace, her luminous form now blazing with power that made the air shimmer around her. Marcus felt a brief moment of panic as he realized what he had unleashed, but when her gaze fell on him, there was nothing but gratitude there. "You have given me back myself, Dr. Chen, and in return, I will give humanity what it needs to survive what is coming." She turned her attention to the assembled Valkyrie, and when she spoke, it was in their musical language, though Marcus found he could somehow understand every word. "My faithful guardians, your long vigil is ended. I am no longer the sleeping oracle you have protected for 2 centuries. I am what I was meant to be from the beginning." Keeper Zalthine raised his head from the floor, his violet eyes wide with wonder and terror. "What are you, truly?" The oracle smiled, and her expression held the warmth of a star nurturing life on distant worlds. "I am what your people called me when you first found me drifting in the void between galaxies. I am the last daughter of the Builders, the final remnant of the civilization that created the dimensional barriers protecting this reality from the chaos beyond." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. The Builders were legend, a mythical race spoken of in the oldest alien texts as the architects of the cosmic order itself. If this being was truly one of them, "The barriers," Sarah said, finding her voice. "You've been maintaining them alone?" "Not alone. There were others once scattered across the galaxy, each maintaining their section of the great work. But the void creatures are patient, and the consortium of eternal night has been systematically hunting us for millennia. I am the last." The oracle gestured, and suddenly the air above them filled with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Points of light marked inhabited systems, but Marcus could see dark areas spreading like an infection, places where the dimensional barriers had begun to fail. "These are the sections where my siblings once stood guard," she continued. "As each fell, their portion of the barrier network began to collapse. The void creatures have been pressing against the weakened points for centuries, and in several sectors small incursions have already begun." Marcus studied the map with growing horror. The dark areas weren't random. They formed a pattern, a systematic weakening that would eventually leave the entire galactic core vulnerable to invasion from whatever existed in the spaces between realities. "But now you can fix it," he said. "With your full power restored, I can hold the barriers, yes, but I cannot rebuild what has been lost, and I cannot do both that and deal with the consortium threat. That is where humanity comes in." The oracle waved her hand and the galactic map zoomed in on human space. Marcus could see the 47 colony worlds Sarah had mentioned, but there were also other markers, locations that seemed to pulse with significance. "Your species possesses something unique among galactic civilizations," the oracle explained. "You have the ability to adapt to any environment, to find solutions where others see only obstacles. More importantly, you have the genetic potential to interface directly with builder technology." "What does that mean?" Sarah asked. "It means humans can become the new guardians of the dimensional barriers. With proper training and enhancement, your people can take over the sections where my siblings once stood watch. But first we must deal with the immediate threat. The map shifted focus again, highlighting 3 star systems at the edge of human space. Marcus could see massive ships moving through the void, their configurations unlike anything in the databases of any known species. The Consortium fleet, the Oracle said simply. They will arrive at Earth in 6 days. Their intention is to deploy a quantum virus that will rewrite the basic structure of all human DNA, making your species incapable of surviving away from your homeworld. The casual way she described what amounted to species-wide genocide made Marcus's blood run cold. Can you stop them? Alone? No. My power is vast but not infinite, and I dare not leave this position unguarded for long enough to engage them directly. The barriers require constant attention, especially now that they are fully activated. Then what do you suggest? Sarah demanded. The Oracle's smile took on a quality that was both beautiful and terrible. I suggest we give humanity the tools it needs to defend itself. And I suggest we do it in a way that will announce to the Consortium and every other galactic power that the age of treating humans as primitive newcomers is officially over. She raised her hand, and Marcus felt power flowing through him like liquid fire, not painful but transformative, changing him on a cellular level. His vision sharpened beyond anything he had thought possible. He could see the quantum strings that connected all matter, the energy patterns that governed the fundamental forces of reality. Enhanced awareness, the Oracle explained as she extended similar gifts to Sarah and the assembled Veil-3, the ability to perceive and interact with builder technology. Consider it the first graduation gift for humanity's ascension to true galactic citizenship. Marcus looked at his hands and saw them outlined in the same silver light that ran through the Oracle's veins. He could feel connections forming in his mind, pathways of understanding that would allow him to comprehend technologies beyond current human science. There are builder installations throughout human space, the Oracle continued, hidden, waiting for beings capable of activating them. With your enhanced perception, you will be able to find and awaken ancient defense networks that have slumbered for millions of years. And the Consortium? Sarah asked. The Oracle's expression grew cold, and for a moment Marcus glimpsed the terrible power that lay beneath her gentle appearance. The Consortium has grown arrogant in their role as galactic shepherds. They have forgotten that there are forces older and more powerful than their bureaucratic empire. It is time they were reminded. She gestured again, and the chamber filled with holographic displays showing technical specifications that made Marcus's enhanced mind reel with their complexity. Weapons that could crack planets, shields that could deflect Starkiller missiles, propulsion systems that could fold space itself. The Builder legacy includes more than just dimensional barriers, the Oracle said. It includes the tools necessary to defend against any threat. Humanity will face the Consortium fleet with weapons that were ancient, when their civilization was still learning to make fire. Marcus felt a surge of excitement that was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the space of minutes, humanity had gone from being potential victims of genocide to wielding technology that could reshape the galaxy. But first, the Oracle continued, we must ensure that the knowledge survives. The Consortium will not simply accept defeat. They will adapt, evolve their strategies, perhaps even seek alliance with the void creatures if they become desperate enough. She looked directly at Marcus with those impossible eyes. Dr. Chen, are you prepared to become the first human guardian of the dimensional barriers? Marcus thought about his quiet life as a xenobiologist, about the safe laboratory where his greatest concern had been cataloging alien plant species. Then he looked at the galactic map with its spreading dark areas, at the approaching Consortium fleet, at the being who had just offered to make humanity a force that could stand against cosmic threats. Yes, he said without hesitation, show me what I need to know. The transformation of Marcus's consciousness was unlike anything he could have imagined. The Oracle placed her hands on his temples, and suddenly his awareness expanded beyond the confines of his physical body. He could see the dimensional barriers as vast webs of energy spanning the galaxy, feel the constant pressure of void creatures testing for weak points, sense the ancient builder installations, scattered across human space like sleeping giants waiting for the right touch to awaken. The knowledge comes with a price, the Oracle warned as information flowed into his mind at an impossible rate. Once you accept the responsibility of Guardian, you become connected to the barrier network permanently. You will feel every attack, every weakness, every point where reality grows thin. Marcus gritted his teeth as the data stream intensified, Technical specifications for technology beyond human comprehension filled his consciousness alongside tactical assessments of threats that had existed since the universe was young. But beneath the overwhelming flow of information was something else, a sense of purpose that resonated in his bones. "I understand," he managed to say. "Show me everything." Hours passed, though time seemed fluid in the Oracle's presence. When the knowledge transfer was complete, Marcus found himself changed in ways that went far beyond the enhanced perception she had initially granted. He could feel the pulse of the dimensional barriers across the galaxy, sensed the locations of builder installations throughout human space, and most importantly, understand exactly what humanity would need to do to survive the next few days. Sarah had spent the time coordinating with the VAL-3 leadership, using her new enhanced capabilities to communicate directly with their fastest ships. By the time Marcus emerged from his transformation, evacuation plans were already in motion. "The Kepler Council is mobilizing every available vessel," she reported. "But Marcus, even with advance warning, we can't evacuate 47 worlds in 6 days." "We don't need to evacuate them," Marcus replied, his voice carrying new harmonics that seemed to resonate with the chamber's crystalline walls. "We need to defend them. And I know how." He gestured, and the holographic display above them shifted to show a detailed map of human space. Points of light appeared on dozens of worlds, marking the locations of builder installations that had been hidden beneath the surface for millions of years. "Defense platforms," Marcus explained. "Each one contains enough firepower to sterilize a solar system, but they've been in hibernation mode since the last major void creature incursion. With the right activation codes, we can bring them online simultaneously." The Oracle nodded approvingly. The builders believed in redundancy. Every inhabited system in the galaxy contains at least one installation, though most species lack the genetic markers necessary to access them. "But humans do," Sarah said, understanding dawning in her enhanced perception. "More than that," Marcus continued. "Human neural patterns are uniquely compatible with builder control systems. We can not only activate the installations, but integrate with them directly. Each platform requires a human operator to reach full potential." Keeper Zalthine approached the platform cautiously, his violet eyes wide with a mixture of awe and concern. "Oracle, if humanity gains access to builder technology, if they become the new guardians, what becomes of the rest of us?" The Oracle's expression grew gentle, maternal even. "The same thing that was always meant to happen, my faithful keeper. You grow, you learn. You take your place as full partners in the defense of reality, rather than subjects requiring protection." She gestured toward the galactic map, and new markers appeared, showing void creature incursions that had been quietly repelled over the centuries. For too long, the younger species have been shielded from the true threats facing this reality. "The consortium convinced you all that galactic civilization needed shepherding, needed careful control to prevent chaos, but that protection came at the cost of growth, of development, of the very evolution that makes life worth preserving." "And now?" Zalthine asked. "Now you learn to stand on your own. The VAL-3, the hegemony of 12 suns, the crystal concordate, all the species that have been kept in carefully maintained ignorance of the greater threats. Humanity's ascension will force them all to either evolve or accept irrelevance." Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity was about to become not just another galactic species, but the inheritors of the most powerful defensive technology in known existence. The implications were staggering. "The consortium fleet," he said, forcing his thoughts back to the immediate crisis. "Even with builder technology, 6 days isn't much time to coordinate a galaxy-wide defense. Which is why we won't be coordinating a galaxy-wide defense," the Oracle replied with a smile that was both beautiful and terrifying. "We will be demonstrating why the consortium should have left humanity alone." She waved her hand, and the display zoomed in on the approaching enemy fleet. Marcus could see the ships more clearly now, massive vessels that dwarfed anything in human space. Their hull configuration suggested technology far in advance of current galactic standard, weapons that could glass entire continents from orbit. "Impressive," the Oracle admitted. "But the consortium has grown complacent. Their ships are designed to intimidate primitive species and overwhelm conventional defenses. They are not prepared for builder technology operated by beings who have never learned to accept limitations." "What exactly are you proposing?" Sarah asked. Marcus felt the answer forming in his enhanced consciousness, and the audacity of it made him smile. We let them come. We let them enter the solar system. Let them deploy their quantum virus. Let them think they've won. Marcus, Sarah said carefully, that sounds suspiciously like surrender. No, the Oracle said, her eyes glowing with anticipation. That sounds like a trap. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her what you see when you look at the builder installation on Luna. Marcus closed his enhanced eyes and felt his consciousness expand across space, touching the massive complex hidden beneath the moon's surface. What he found there made his breath catch in his throat. It's not just a defense platform, he whispered. It's a dimensional anchor, a stabilization point for reality itself. And? The Oracle prompted. Understanding flooded through Marcus like electricity. The consortium ships use dimensional manipulation for their faster-than-light travel. Their quantum virus is designed to propagate through dimensional channels. If someone were to destabilize the local dimensional matrix at exactly the right moment, their ships would be trapped in normal space, Sarah finished, her military mind immediately grasping the tactical implications. Unable to retreat, unable to use their advanced propulsion systems. Sitting targets, Marcus confirmed. For weapons that were ancient when their civilization was young. The Oracle's smile grew wider. The builders face threats that make the consortium look like unruly children. Their installations are designed to deal with enemies that could devour entire galaxies. A mere enforcement fleet will barely register as a minor inconvenience. Marcus felt power flowing through him as his new role as guardian began to assert itself. He could sense the other builder installations throughout human space, feel them responding to his presence like vast animals awakening from hibernation. The sensation was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. There's something else, he said, his voice carrying new undertones of cosmic awareness. The demonstration won't just be for the consortium. Every major galactic power monitors the approaches to human space. When we activate builder technology, when we demonstrate capabilities that exceed their understanding, it will change everything. Revolution, Zalthine whispered. Evolution, the Oracle corrected. The galaxy has been stagnant for too long, locked in patterns established by the consortium's careful management. Humanity's ascension will force every species to reconsider their assumptions about power, about potential, about what is possible when a civilization refuses to accept limitations. Marcus looked at the approaching fleet one final time, then turned to face Sarah and Zalthine. Send word to all human colonies. Full evacuation of non-essential personnel to underground facilities. Military personnel report to builder installation sites for emergency integration training. And prepare a message for the Galactic Council. What kind of message? Sarah asked. Marcus smiled, and for the first time since removing the Oracle's bandages, he felt fully confident in what was about to happen. The kind that announces the birth of a new galactic power. The kind that makes it clear that humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. And if we're wrong, Sarah pressed. If the builder technology doesn't work, if we can't integrate with it properly, if the consortium has capabilities we haven't anticipated. The Oracle placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. Commander, doubt is healthy. But remember, you are no longer the same species that first stumbled into galactic civilization 3 centuries ago. You are the inheritors of Builder legacy, the new guardians of reality itself. She looked toward the approaching fleet with eyes that had seen the birth and death of galaxies. Let them come. It is time the galaxy learned why the Builders chose humanity as their successors. The 3 days that followed Marcus's transformation passed in a blur of frantic preparation and mounting tension. Across human space, builder installations that had slumbered for eons began to stir. On Luna, the massive complex beneath the moon's surface hummed with awakening power as human technicians, their minds enhanced by the Oracle's gift, learned to interface with technology that operated on principles beyond conventional physics. Marcus stood in the primary control chamber of the lunar installation. His consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions as he coordinated with 30 other newly awakened guardian candidates. Each one stood at similar installations throughout human space, their minds linked in a network that spanned light years in real time. Integration at 93%, reported Dr. Elena Vasquez from the installation on Mars. Her voice carried the same harmonic undertones that had begun to characterize all enhanced humans. Defensive grids are fully operational. Same here on Proxima. came the voice of Colonel James Wright. "The platform is beautiful, Marcus. I can see why the builders called them reality anchors. This thing could hold dimensional barriers stable even during a full void creature assault." Sarah's voice joined the network from Earth's orbital command station. "Consortium fleet has entered the outer solar system. 18 capital ships, 6 planet killer class. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies." Marcus felt a cold smile cross his lips as he opened his awareness fully to the approaching threat. Through the enhanced perception the Oracle had granted him, he could see the consortium ships as patterns of energy and intention. Their crews radiated confidence born of countless previous victories against primitive species. They had no idea what they were flying into. "Let them get closer," he transmitted to the network. "Wait for my signal." The Oracle's voice whispered directly into his mind, carried by quantum entanglement across the distance between Earth and the Valkyrie homeworld. "They are beginning to deploy the quantum virus, Marcus. Another few minutes and it will be distributed throughout your solar system." "Perfect," Marcus replied. "That's exactly what we want." On his control screens, Marcus watched as the consortium fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships were magnificent in their own way, sleek predators designed for the systematic extinction of civilizations that grew beyond acceptable parameters. But they moved through space like sharks in water, never realizing they had entered the territory of something far more dangerous. "Virus deployment complete," Sarah reported. "It's spreading through dimensional channels." Just as predicted, Marcus felt the quantum virus touch the edges of human space, a carefully designed pathogen that would rewrite the basic genetic structure of any human it contacted. The consortium's ultimate weapon, perfected over millennia of enforcing their vision of galactic order. "Guardian Network, prepare for dimensional destabilization on my mark," Marcus announced. "Remember, we need to collapse their exit vectors while leaving the virus channels intact until the last possible moment." Confirmation came from installations across human space. 31 builder platforms, each one capable of reshaping local reality, waited for the command that would announce humanity's ascension to true galactic power. The consortium fleet admiral's broadcast reached Earth moments later, his voice carrying the casual arrogance of someone who had never faced real opposition. "Primitive humans, you have exactly 1 solar day to begin the process of genetic modification that will restrict your species to your birth world. Failure to comply will result in the complete sterilization of all colonies and a 90% population reduction on Earth. This is your final warning." Marcus almost laughed. Instead, he opened a channel to the entire consortium fleet. When he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that would be audible across multiple dimensions, ensuring that every galactic power monitoring the situation would hear humanity's response. "Consortium Enforcement Fleet, you are trespassing in the territory of the new guardians of the dimensional barriers. You have deployed weapons of mass genetic modification against a protected species, under the authority granted to me by the last daughter of the builders. I order you to withdraw immediately." Silence followed. Then the Admiral's voice returned, this time tinged with confusion and growing anger. "What builders? What guardians? Human, you speak nonsense. Submit to genetic modification or face extinction." "Very well," Marcus said quietly. "Guardian Network, execute dimensional collapse. Show them what they're really dealing with." The builder installations activated simultaneously across human space. Reality itself seemed to pause for a moment, as 31 massive platforms redirected the fundamental forces that held space-time together. On Marcus's displays, he watched as the dimensional channels the consortium ships depended on for faster-than-light travel simply ceased to exist in the solar system. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the attacking fleet. Ships that had been moments away from deploying planet-killer weapons suddenly found themselves trapped in normal space, their exotic matter drives failing as the dimensional framework they required collapsed around them. "Impossible," the Admiral's voice crackled across emergency frequencies. "No primitive species possesses reality manipulation technology." "We're not primitive," Marcus replied, his voice now carrying the full authority of his role as a guardian. "We're the inheritors of the builders who created the barriers that protect this galaxy from the void. And you have just attacked the wrong species." Through his enhanced awareness, Marcus felt the Oracle's approval spanning the distance between star systems. Around him, the lunar installation hummed with power that could reshape worlds, waiting for his next command. "Sarah, begin broadcasting the evidence files on all galactic frequencies." Marcus ordered. Let every species see what the consortium has been doing for millennia. The forced extinctions, the genetic modifications, the systematic suppression of natural development. Broadcasting now, Sarah confirmed. The files the Oracle provided are going out on quantum channels. Every major civilization in the galaxy will have complete documentation of consortium crimes within the hour. On the displays, Marcus watched as the trapped fleet began to understand their situation. Ships that had entered the solar system as predators were now prey, their advanced technology useless against forces they didn't understand. This is Admiral Corzin of the Consortium Enforcement Division, came the transmission. The arrogance replaced by growing desperation. We demand safe passage out of the system. Our destruction will bring the full might of the consortium down on your primitive species. Marcus felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. With a thought, he could activate the offensive capabilities of the builder platforms. The weapon systems he now controlled could erase the consortium fleet from existence, could probably destroy their home system if he chose to do so. The temptation was there to end the threat permanently, but the Oracle's teachings echoed in his enhanced consciousness. The builders had not been conquerors. They had been guardians, protectors, beings who understood that true power lay in defending rather than destroying. Admiral Corzin, Marcus said finally, your fleet will be allowed to depart but not unchanged. The genetic virus you deployed in our system is about to be redirected back to your ships. Your crews will experience exactly what you intended for humanity. No, the Admiral's voice rose to a near shriek. The virus was designed specifically for human genetics. It will kill us. Then I suggest you leave quickly, Marcus replied coldly. Before the quantum channels realign and send your weapon back where it came from. The consortium fleet's departure was hasty and graceless, ships designed for intimidation fleeing like startled birds. As they crossed the edge of the solar system, Marcus allowed the dimensional channels to partially restore, just enough for them to escape into faster-than-light travel. But the quantum virus followed them, carried on the same dimensional pathways they had used to deploy it. Marcus felt a grim satisfaction as he sensed its arrival at the consortium fleet. Justice served at the speed of light. Guardian Network, report status, Marcus commanded. Confirmations came from across human space. All installations remained operational. All Guardians successfully integrated with their systems. Humanity had faced its first test as inheritors of builder technology and emerged victorious. Marcus, Sarah's voice carried a note of wonder. You need to see the galactic communication channels. The response to our broadcast is unprecedented. Marcus opened his awareness to the quantum communications network that connected civilizations across the galaxy. What he found there made his enhanced consciousness real with the implications. Species that had submitted to consortium authority for millennia were rising in open rebellion. The evidence of systematic oppression that the Oracle had provided was sparking revolutions on hundreds of worlds. The careful order the consortium had maintained for eons was collapsing in a matter of hours. But more than that, delegations from major galactic powers were already requesting formal contact with humanity's new government. The hegemony of 12 suns, the Crystal Concordat, even the mysterious hive minds of the Outer Rim were acknowledging humanity as a major galactic power. The galaxy will never be the same. Marcus Murray. 6 months after the consortium fleet's humiliating retreat from human space, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Guardian Council station orbiting Earth. Through the enhanced perception that had become second nature, he could see the streams of energy connecting hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, the vast network of dimensional barriers that protected reality from the chaos beyond. The station itself was a marvel of human and builder technology integration, its organic curves and crystalline spires growing from principles that conventional engineering could never have achieved. Representatives from 43 different species worked alongside enhanced humans, learning to operate technologies that had been theoretical impossibilities mere months ago. The integration proceeds faster than anticipated, reported Dr. Elena Vasquez, her form now bearing the silver tracery that marked all permanent guardians. The Veil 3 delegation has successfully established their own barrier monitoring station. The Crystal Concordat is requesting assistance with activating 3 dormant builder installations in their territory. Marcus nodded, His attention split between the conversation and the constant awareness of barrier conditions across the galaxy. It had taken time to adjust to the overwhelming flow of information, to learn how to maintain his individual consciousness while being connected to a network spanning light years. But the responsibility was worth the sacrifice. "Any word from the consortium territories?" he asked. Sarah approached from the communications center, her expression grim. "That's complicated. The Empire of Eternal Night has fractured into 7 separate factions. Some are seeking alliance with us. Others are doubling down on the old ways of forced limitations. And there are reports of void creature sightings in the outer spiral arms." The Oracle materialized beside them, her form now free of any physical constraints, existing as pure consciousness within the station's quantum matrix. In the months since her awakening, she had grown beyond the need for a corporeal body, becoming something closer to a living embodiment of cosmic awareness. "The void creatures are testing the barriers more aggressively," she confirmed. "With the consortium's network disrupted, several key installations have gone offline. The situation is manageable for now, but it will require direct intervention soon." Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility settle on his shoulders. The Guardians had taken on the burden of protecting an entire galaxy, and every day brought new challenges. Void creatures pressed against weakened barriers. Political factions sought to exploit the chaos left by the consortium's collapse. And somewhere in the dark between galaxies, ancient threats stirred in response to the changing cosmic order. "The hegemony delegation is here," announced a voice from the station's communication system. Through the quantum network, Marcus could see a massive ship approaching, its hull bearing the symbols of 12 different species united under a common government. "Show them to Conference Chamber Alpha," Marcus said, "and activate the translation protocols. This is too important for misunderstandings." The hegemony of 12 suns had been neutral during humanity's confrontation with the consortium, but their sudden request for emergency consultation suggested that neutrality was no longer an option. As the oldest surviving multi-species alliance in the galaxy, their decisions would influence countless other civilizations. The delegation that entered the conference chamber represented the full diversity of galactic life. Marcus saw silicon-based entities that communicated through harmonized electromagnetic fields, aquatic beings whose thoughts moved like ocean currents, and energy patterns that might once have been organic but had transcended physical form entirely. Guardian Chen, spoke the delegation's leader, a being whose appearance shifted constantly between different states of matter. "We come seeking alliance and assistance. The collapse of consortium authority has created power vacuums that threaten galactic stability, but more than that, we have detected something approaching from beyond the galactic edge." The Oracle's presence intensified in the chamber, her consciousness focusing on the hegemony representative with laser precision. "Show us." The delegation's data specialist, a crystalline entity that processed information at quantum speeds, projected a holographic display that filled the chamber. Marcus felt his enhanced perception recoil from what he saw there. Moving through the void between galaxies was something that defied easy classification. It wasn't a ship or a creature or even a coherent form of matter. It was more like a wound in reality itself, a space where the normal laws of physics simply ceased to apply, and it was heading directly for the Milky Way. "We first detected it 3 cycles ago," the delegation leader continued. "Our analysis suggests it is some form of meta-entity, possibly from a universe where different physical laws apply. Its approach is causing dimensional distortions throughout the outer spiral arms." Marcus felt the Oracle's alarm through their quantum connection. Whatever this thing was, it represented a threat beyond anything the builders had anticipated when they created the barrier network. "Estimated time of arrival?" Sarah asked. "Based on current trajectory and velocity patterns, it will reach the galactic edge within 1 solar year," the crystalline entity replied. "However, its effects are already being felt. Reality distortions are increasing exponentially as it approaches." Marcus closed his eyes and extended his awareness through the Guardian network, touching the minds of his fellow protectors stationed throughout human space and beyond. What he found confirmed his worst fears. The dimensional barriers were holding, but they were never designed to deal with threats from outside the galaxy itself. "We need to convene an emergency session of all Guardian stations," he announced, "and send word to every major galactic power. This isn't a human problem or a hegemony problem. This threatens the survival of everything in our galaxy." Over the following weeks, the Guardian Council station became the center of frantic preparation. Species that had been enemies for millennia worked side by side, sharing technologies and resources in the face of an existential threat. The former consortium territories sent what assistance they could, finally understanding that their policies of limitation and control had left the galaxy woefully unprepared for true cosmic dangers. The Oracle spent most of her time in deep communion with the builder installations, searching through ancient databases for any mention of extragalactic entities. What she found was troubling. The builders encountered something similar approximately 50 million years ago, she reported during a council session attended by representatives from over 200 species. Their records speak of reality devourers, entities from collapsed universes that seek to impose their own physical laws on intact realities. How did they deal with the previous incursion? Asked the VEL-3 delegate. They didn't, the Oracle replied grimly. The entity in question was smaller, weaker than what approaches us now. It took the combined effort of every builder in the galaxy to repel it, and the cost was catastrophic. Most of their civilization was destroyed in the effort. Marcus felt the weight of cosmic responsibility pressing down on him. The builders had been beings of unimaginable power and knowledge, and they had barely survived an encounter with a lesser version of what was now heading for the Milky Way. Options? He asked. We could attempt to create a galaxy-wide barrier, suggested Elena Vasquez. Extend the dimensional protection network to encompass the entire galactic edge. Insufficient, the Oracle replied. This entity exists partially outside normal space-time. Barriers that work against void creatures would be like spider webs against a stellar wind. Then what do you suggest? Sarah demanded. The Oracle was silent for a long moment, her consciousness ranging across vast distances as she considered possibilities. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a note of desperate hope. There is one option. The builders created something called the Reality Engine, a device capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics within a localized area. It was never used, considered too dangerous even for their advanced civilization. Where is it? Marcus asked. Here, the Oracle replied. Hidden within the galactic core, in a pocket dimension that requires unanimous approval from all surviving Guardians to access. Marcus looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, species that had fought each other for eons, beings whose very thought processes operated on incompatible principles, all united by the approaching threat to their shared reality. The risks? He asked. Total, the Oracle admitted. The Reality Engine could save the galaxy by creating a localized zone where the approaching entity's physics cannot apply, or it could destroy everything within a 1,000 light-year radius. The builders never found a way to test it safely. Marcus felt the decision crystallizing in his enhanced consciousness. In the months since becoming a Guardian, he had learned to trust in humanity's greatest strength, their willingness to take impossible risks when the alternative was certain destruction. How long do we have to decide? He asked. The entity will reach the galactic edge in 8 months, the Oracle replied. The Reality Engine requires at least 6 months of preparation, assuming we can gather the resources and expertise needed for its activation. Marcus stood, his form,